Hi everyone, welcome to these Python tutorials where we are putting special focus on image processing related tasks. And for the last few tutorials, we've been talking about various terminology that gets used as part of deep learning. And in this video, let's look at training and validation curves. And these are the ones that, where we are actually plotting various parameters that are resulting from your network training. For example, training loss is a parameter that obviously we are monitoring as the epochs go by. So we can plot that as a function of epoch, right? The training loss as a function of epoch. Now you can also visualize accuracy as a function of epoch, or intersection over union. For example, if you're doing semantic segmentation, that's a better metric than accuracy. So in summary, these curves are giving us information about how certain value is changing as a function of epoch. So in this example, I'm going to just show you the loss curves, and then let's understand what the loss curves actually mean in various situations. And then we'll jump on to our Google Colab for a quick code review. So first of all, if you look at these curves, on x-axis we have epochs, and on y-axis you have loss. And let me start by showing you something that hopefully you will not see, but you have to recognize when underfitting is happening. So when your data is not fit, when your model is not fitting very well to your data, then you may see something of this sort on the left-hand side. This is basically telling us that, hey, the model is unable to learn the training data, or you just probably train for 20 epochs, but if you train for an additional 500 epochs, you may get some convergence. But at this point, since the training is stopped, this is underfitting. So you can see that the validation loss is high, right? I mean, on y-axis we have loss, and the training loss is a bit low, but still it's not converging. Another example on the right-hand side, you see training again stopped early. Here, it appears that it's trying to learn because the loss is getting down here, but then we stopped it before it actually continued. Okay, so again, in this example, if we left this training for another 100 epochs or so, maybe we'll get some convergence. But still, it's a good idea to go back and tweak your input parameters if it's looking like this after a lot of epochs. Okay, now let's look at a few other real examples, and this is basically a hand sketch example. So I'll show you some real examples using the code that we're going to have a look at later on, right after this. So here, this is using the CFAR10 dataset where we have, I believe, total 60,000 data points, 50,000 for training, 10,000 for, I got it here, 10,000 for testing. Now, we talked about dropout in one of our previous tutorials, and we use dropout to make sure we are not overfitting. And here is a great example of overfitting. Just by looking at the curve, you can tell this. Now, on the left-hand side, for the next few slides, I'm showing you the result from a model that's not too deep. It only has 2 convolutional blocks. Okay? And on the right-hand side, we have 4 convolutional blocks, a bit deeper model. So let's see how the behavior changes, between these two, and also between various, as we change the dropout. First of all, without any dropout, as you can see, the training is loss is keep going down. That means it's getting better and better as the epochs go by. So the model is working great on the training data, but on the validation data, it's getting better up to a certain point, but then it's getting worse. That tells us the model is performing obviously better on training data and not very well on the validation data. This is basically what we refer to as overfitting. Okay, it's fitting to the training data, but then any other data it's not doing well. Obviously, this is not something we want when we train a model. The case is same for both the shallow and the deep network. Okay. Now, with a dropout of 25%, okay, between the layers, now it's exactly the same data, same training, same number of epochs. Okay, if I go back, 25 epochs, exactly same amount of data. Now you see how much nicer the curves actually are. This shows you the importance of dropout. Again, this is the dropout between different convolutional layers. We're dropping 25% of the data randomly, 25% of the connections randomly, and then we are fitting this model. So this is not bad, and even for the deep network, it looks very good. Now, in case you wonder, why is your loss for a validation lower than training? Shouldn't it be the other way around, right? I mean, it should typically be the other way around. You have your validation loss a bit higher because you always have your training typically better. Now, sometimes you see this because it's easier for whatever reason. It's easier for the network to train on the validation data, okay, compared to this training data. Now, if you actually split your training and validation randomly using a different random number just to get a different split, then this may change. So again, I often see these for deeper networks, and also especially if you have a limited amount of validation data compared to the training data. But 10,000 images, it's not limited, but it's not humongous amount of data either. The next case scenario, now let's do 50% dropout. Right, 50%. That's, I think, a bit too much. Now, if you look here, it looks okay, but it's still not ideal case scenario. And on the right-hand side, it appears that the deep network is still trying to learn. Maybe if I give this another 50 to 100 epochs, we'll probably see some convergence, but then you see my validation loss is jumping all over the place, but overall, maybe trying to trend downward. So I try to stay away from very high or very large dropout values. Now let's look at smaller training data. It's exactly the same data set, except I only took 1,000 data points and split it into 750 for training and 250 for validation, and with a dropout of 0.25 or 25%, because we know 25% is a good dropout. So it seems to be training okay, but maybe I need a few more epochs here, but obviously it's not great. I mean, especially if you look at deeper network, you have a limited training data, but then you have a deep network and trying to adjust millions of weights with thousands of data. That's it. This is not ideal. This is definitely unrepresentative, too small to represent the data. Sometimes you will just see, you see how the validation is not even doing much of anything. So this is a good sign that, okay, maybe you need a bigger data size, or try to use some sort of augmentation to represent the same data but in a different way. And by the way, we'll talk about augmentation pretty soon. Now let's actually increase the number of epochs. You see how this looks like it's converging? So if what happens if I actually give additional 100 or 200 epochs to each of these? Now if you look at that, I mean, this started off very similar, right? If I go back, this part is basically the first 25 epochs. So it's actually getting better. Both of these, the training is getting better, but again, there is a lot of overfitting going on right here, which is pretty common with a very small amount of data, because it's doing great on the training data, but it's not very well on the validation data right here. Same with this, maybe slightly better than the other one, but in this example, maybe you can try a little bit higher dropout, but I would actually try augmentation, actually, sorry, that word slipped my mind. But again, the whole point here is the data is unrepresentative, and you're trying to fit this to a limited amount of data. So of all these, again, in this case, I increased this to 0.5. I just mentioned going from 0.25 to 0.5. It did get slightly better, but again, it's not really ideal. Okay, all comes down to unrepresentative data set. So in this examples I just showed you, the ideal network in this case is, okay, working with 50,000 training data points and a dropout of 25%. So always test this out before for a few epochs, and then make sure that you design your network such a way that you're not overfitting, or and also recognize wherever you have limited data effects that you can see here. Now let's jump into this code on Colab, and then do a couple of experiments and end this video. So let's jump onto Colab. Okay, so here it is the same example as last time. So 60,000 data points, and instead of using all 60,000, so let's go ahead and import our libraries. I've written a couple of lines of code here that splits our training data. Again, please watch next video to learn about training data, validation data, and testing data. Okay, it should be straightforward to explain, so I'm anticipating that to be a short video. But let's actually get our input data from CFAR10, right? This is available as part of Keras.datasets. You can upload your own data if you want. You can use your own data for these tests. Okay, so instead of working on all 50,000, let me just get my size down to about 10,000. Okay, and I'm taking only these 10,000 and splitting them into training and testing. That's what these two lines are doing here. So at the end of this, I have 7,500 training data points and 2,500 testing data points. That's it, or validation data points. Okay, now let's continue and have a quick look at some of these images. You have I guess a cat or some animal, horse, cow, car. So okay, so we have these. Let's go ahead and scale them. Let's convert them to categorical. Remember, again, we talked about this. These are all multi-class classification, which means we need to convert them to categorical. Here is the network. I have two networks. One is shallow. You see, this is one convolutional block, and this is another convolutional block. Each block has two convolutional layers, max pooling, and then a dropout if we want to add the dropout. And here, exactly same, except we have 4 of these. That's it. Okay, 4 convolutional blocks. Okay, so for model 1, let's put our drop to 0, dropout, and then dropout to 0 right there. Okay, so all these dropouts are 0, which means basically we have no dropout. Let's go ahead and run this to see our network right there. And this one, this should be a bit deeper, obviously, as you can see. And now let's fit history 1 and history 2. Yeah, so this is fitting to the training, exactly the same on exactly the same data, but one is shallow, one is deep. So let's go ahead and run this and plot the loss curves. And how do we plot it while the training is happening? So it's basically, I'm capturing this as history 1 and history 2, right? If you just have model.fit, it just fits it, you're not capturing it. So I'm capturing when I'm running this model.fit, the validation data, you see, all of this information, I'm just capturing it into my history 1 object there. And then I can, from that history 1, I can extract loss, meaning training loss, validation loss, accuracy, validation accuracy. Accuracy and validation accuracy because I'm tracking them. Okay, so let's give this a few more seconds, and then I'll. I think this is already the second one that it is doing, so it should be done pretty soon. Then, yeah, the first one is done. This is the second one. So as soon as this is done in about a few seconds, let's check the accuracy first. Okay, so we can check. Let's go ahead and check the accuracy. Okay, 55%. But let's first plot history. This is for model 1. And there you go, overfitting. We know this. We saw this earlier, right? So our training keeps going down and our validation keeps going up. And if you track the accuracy, it should be exactly the opposite. The accuracy of training is improving while the accuracy of validation kind of saturated right here and probably goes bad after a while. So that's our model 1. I mean, for our shallow model. Let's check this for a bit deeper model, right? We called it history 2, and go ahead and plot it. It's actually even worse. You see how worse this is, and it got saturated even below like around 0.5-ish. Let's plot this one more time. History 1. I should have plotted both at the same time, but this is still okay. Slightly above 50%, but not any better. So this is. I think we can do all these exercises, which I did and showed you as part of the PowerPoint presentation. So it's not good use of your time for me to actually change these and then check it. I'm going to share this code anyway. Please look at the link in the description. But I definitely recommend you to experiment with various parameters so you understand the implications of small data, having larger data, having what is overfitting, how does your dropout fit. This can be a great piece of code for you to learn about a lot of these terms that we are talking about. Okay, in the next tutorial, let's again talk about, continue this discussion. So please do subscribe so you're notified as soon as we upload that next video. Thank you.